to the Meeple Podcast. This is Bill Price.
And I'm Hollis Biggs.
And welcome to episode 16. We have a couple of card games, smaller card games to play. One is, these are both actually in my most played games of all time. One of them far more recently, like this year and last year. The other one has been a favorite of mine and my old game group for, probably the last 6 or 7 years. And I have more to say about that when we get to it. So let's talk about the newest one. Let's Sea Salt and Paper.
This was a really good, and I'm going to say this because, again, it's a board game podcast for beginners. This one was, I thought, particularly easy to learn. The cards, one of the nice things about some of the card games we've played, or some of the card heavy games that we played, are the kind of instructional cards that come with each game, and you can kind of set them between players, or in front of each player. But it basically tells you what you're doing and what the objectives are each round. So if you have any questions, you can refer back to your card. You don't necessarily have to ask your board game group's Bill.
Yes.
Which, super helpful to have one of those. We really appreciate him.
Thanks.
But having the ability to teach people a board game or a card game, whatever the case may be, is a very important skill to have, especially if you want to get more people into the hobby. And Bill is particularly good at it. So we might have to have you maybe do an episode on that in particular.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one thing I really appreciate about when any game provides player aids, like the cards that kind of have descriptions of what the cards do, or in my case, one of the player aids is the color system. So it's a company called Color ADD, and they do they basically make games colorblind friendly, which I am colorblind, so I appreciate. And this particular game has 11 different colors in varying numbers of them. So in order for me to differentiate these colors, I desperately need this system. It's basically a symbol system. So like there's just little symbols at the top of each card that correspond to what color it is, and this player aid that it has them all listed. So that helps me, and I really appreciate it. And you're probably wondering, hey, Bill, why do you need to know what color anything is? Because what is this game? So, Sea Salt and Paper is a card game, and it is played with a deck of cards, and it is for 2 to 4 players. Takes about 30 minutes. I think the box says 20 or 30 minutes. If everyone knows what they're doing and you're playing quickly, I think it is much closer to a 20-minute game. Plays well at 2, plays well at 3, plays well at 4. So it scales very, very well that way. But what it is, basically, you have several different types of cards. You have these what are called duo cards, which are a certain thing. Like one is a crab, one is a boat, one is a fish.
One's a swimmer.
One's a swimmer, one's a shark. And so one of the things you can do is when you get 2 of them, thus the word duo, in your hand, you can play them in front of you, score a point for the duo. And you can also do a special action. So like the crabs will let you go through a discard pile of your choice and pull out a card. The boat will let you, if you get a duo of boats and you play it, your special action is you can take another turn. The fish will let you just take a card off the top of the face down draw pile. If you get a swimmer and a shark together, then you get to steal a card from somebody. Normally I don't love the card stealing part, but the rounds in this game go by so fast that it just, before you can even get mad, it's over. So you're on to the next one, and I think it's actually kind of a neat way to do this. So ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the most points, and this game plays to, so each round everyone's going to score a certain amount of points. And like with 2 players, you're playing to 40 points. So you just keep playing rounds and rounds until you get that. With 3 players, it's 35 points, and with 4 players, it's 30 points. So basically, you're trying to get to this threshold of points, and then whoever has the most after that is the winner. There are also scorecards that you're taking in here that are kind of collecting sets. So you might be seashells. And if you have one of them, it's worth no points. But when you add a second one, it's 2 points. And a third one will be 4 points, and so on. There's penguins. And there's different ones that are more or less common. So the ones that are really common don't score as many points. The ones that are much more rare, like they have these anchors that are the sailor card. There's only 2 of them. If you get both of them, you get 5 points. That's a pretty good amount of points. 5 points is nothing to laugh at. That's definitely can carry over. But the big and I know this sounds like sort of a generic card game at this point, and up to now it is. But what makes Sea Salt and Paper unique, the thing that sets it apart from any other game, and I've never actually seen this before, is there are 2 ways to end a round. So a player can call for the end of a round whenever they have at least 7 points in their hand or in front of them. So, but what makes it special is that you can, when you call to end the game, you can either call a stop, or you can call the other thing that I don't remember what it's called, last chance. So, you can either call a stop or last chance. If you call stop, it's kind of like every other game. Every player, looks at their hand and what's in front of them, and they score all their points, and everybody... I've got 7 points, you've got 9 points, and Steve has 2 points. Okay, so now we go on to the next round. But the unique part is the last chance. So if you are confident that you have the most points, then you can say last chance. That means that every other player gets to have one more turn, and then everybody counts up their points. If you have the most points still after everyone gets another turn, then you score your full hand, but everyone else can only score what's called their color bonus if they happen to have a mermaid. And so that's a much, much lower score. Now, so that is a great way for you to, you got 12 points and everybody else ends up with like 1 or 2 points, which is a great way to get ahead. However, if you kind of bet on yourself and lose, and you don't have more points than everybody else, then everybody else scores their full amount and you only score your color bonus, if any. So it's a high risk, high reward kind of proposition, and it's just very unique in that, and that kind of gives this feeling that you're never really out of it, because you can be down, 15 points, and you can last chance and just jump up there and
demolish everyone.
Demolish. And so it's really fun that way. I have found we don't use last chance nearly as much as I would have thought we would. But we are also very safe players. I tend to be much more conservative with my gameplay. I'm not a huge risk taker in life or in games. So.
I'm far more the push your luck type. The other thing that I will say, this is my favorite part of this game, not that I ever had to use it, but my favorite part is that there is actually an instant win factor as well. I love the opportunity for an instant win. That truly just thrills me. I don't know why.
And what is the instant win?
The instant win is when you collect all 4 mermaid cards.
Yes, there are 4 mermaid cards in this deck, and if you happen to, at any point in time, have all 4, you have won not just the round, you have won the entire game, and it's over. It doesn't matter how many points you had or didn't have. If it's the first round of the game, it doesn't matter. You win that game. It's in the books. It's done.
Yeah, the most I ever collected was 2, so I don't know why I find games that have this feature so thrilling, but I absolutely love it. So that is weirdly one of my favorite features.
Yeah, it is very neat. I also like that kind of, ability to shoot the moon kind of thing in games. So that's
a good one.
Yeah, it is. So tell me some thoughts.
So in addition to the instant win factor being one of my favorite game features or methods, I guess. I thought that this game was particularly fun, particularly easy to learn, and quick. I like a quick game. I also love just a regular card game. Love a portability factor when it comes to a game and making sure it's easy to set up and easy to teach people and to bring with us when we go places. So this is a really good one for me. And I, again, love the not the duo cards, but the kind of explanation cards that sit in front of you. Because then
player aids are excellent.
Yeah, again, then I don't have to torture Bill every time I have a question. I can kind of refer back without interrupting the gameplay. So it's pretty nice.
And this is a very small box. It is very, very portable. It does not take up much room on the table. Basically, it's just there's a deck of cards and then there's 2 discard piles. So really, the way you get cards into your hand is you either on your turn you either take one of the face-up discards or you take 2 from the face-down draw deck. Pick one, put it in your hand, the other one goes into one of the discard piles. So it's very easy to teach, very easy to learn. More difficult to kind of master some of the subtleties, because a lot of times you are playing the person. I know this gets, in card games, this gets thrown around a lot. You're playing the person rather than the game. But it's very true, because you're trying to predict what you can safely discard. You know, if you saw that other person's collecting seashells, you don't want to toss a seashell their way, even if it doesn't necessarily help you. You're just giving them points. And so you kind of have to sort of be aware of that kind of thing. You've got 3... This has happened to me before. I know the other person has 3 mermaids. I have a mermaid. They do a shark and swimmer on me, and they take the mermaid and win the game.
Oof. That's got to be a really tough break.
It was. It was. So I have seen it in that way, so it is not like impossible for it to happen. It absolutely happens. Not often. So not often at all. Like I'd say 1% of the time kind of thing.
The instant win doesn't have to happen often for me to still love the feature.
Right. Just has to be.
Has to exist.
Yes. So this game is just, it is a card game through and through. It is not like, it doesn't feel like they try to put too much game into a deck of cards. They just are like, this is a fun basic card game and super replayable, and I have played this with lots of different people over and over and over and over and over again. So that's a big thumbs up for me. I'm gonna give, what are you gonna give it?
This is a little out of character for me. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10.
Wow.
I really enjoyed this one. I really liked it. Thought it was a great game. You guys know I love the portability of a game, and this one is very portable.
I think that's your first 10.
It is my first 10. It is a really good one.
I'm gonna give it a 9 because it is absolutely one of my favorite ones to introduce to people, and it's a great one for that end of game night game where like everybody's mind's melted and you're like, let's just play something we know. And you can just end the night there. You had a few drinks, you can still play this game. So, and that is Sea Salt and Paper by Pandasaurus Games. So the next one is a game called Parade, which is an Alice in Wonderland themed game out of Japan. It is pretty old. I want to say it's probably 10 to 15 years old. I know my copy is probably pretty close to that. And it used to be one of my just go-to favorite games. It went with me everywhere. It was my love letter, my Sea Salt and Paper. It was the game, and everyone in my game group loved it. Like, we played this game hundreds of times.
I could definitely see
no
that.
exaggeration, hundreds of times. It has 2-player rules. It plays up to 6. So it was a great game to have. If you had a bunch of games that played 4 players, 'cause a lot of standard board games play 4 players, maybe 5, and you had that extra player, hey, let's bust out Parade, And so it has a very special spot in my heart. Unfortunately, I don't think it did not go over very well when I introduced it. So let me explain a little bit about it. So there are, I think, 6 suits, and there are 0. The cards are listed 0 to 10. So there's 11 of each. So there's 66 cards total. And each suit is an Alice in Wonderland character. There's Alice, there's the Mad Hatter, there's the Dodo, Cheshire Cat, and all that. So the White Rabbit, and it's beautiful. I think it's really well illustrated. My cards literally look like they come out of like an archaeological dig because
that's a very accurate description.
They are so rough.
For y'all to see the photo of this one.
They are rough. They look like they're vintage, but it's just had beer spilled on them too many times. So what you do is you have a hand of cards. Everybody has a hand of cards, and there's this this parade of cards in the middle of the table. So there's a draw pile, and then there's some face-up cards. And what you do on your turn is you play a card at the end of the parade. And whatever card you play determines what, if any, cards you may have to take out of the parade. You don't want to take cards. You don't want points. Points are bad. It's like golf, kind of. You want the lowest points at the end wins. So the way it works is, say you play a 3 of Alice. So you would play it at the end of the parade. You'd count 3 deep into the parade because you played a 3. And then everything after that is either an Alice suit or a 3 or below, you have to take not into your hand, but in front of you on the table. And those are your points. And so ultimately you're trying to play cards that will extend the parade and keep you from getting points. And then at the very end of the game, you're going to be down to 4 cards. You're going to keep 2 of them. You're going to discard 2 of them. The 2 that you keep, you have to score. Now, cards like zeros obviously score 0 points, but you score the value of the card. So if you have a 9 and a 7, that's 16 points. That's a lot. However, here's the fun part. If you have the majority of a suit in front of you at the end of the game, then you get to flip all those cards over and they all count as only 1 point. So if you get stuck with some high value cards early, you could just go after that suit to make sure that you get, the majority in them so that they only score 1 point each. And you kind of try and get other players stuck with some of those cards. So there's a lot of, I just think it's so engaging and there's so much strategy involved. And I think that's where I kind of lost everybody. It just didn't go over the way that I'm used to it, seeing it go over. And I can kind of feel like, there's, I feel like its age is showing now. It feels a little more outdated than I remember it in its peak. So tell me what you thought of it.
So I think this was a tough follow-up to Sea Salt and Paper, which I liked so much. And we played this with, the 2 of us played with one other person. We played Sea Salt and Paper first, and then we played Parade. I was coming off of a win in Sea Salt and Paper, so I was particularly excited to keep that winning streak going. And weirdly enough, I did win Parade. I don't know how I won, because quite frankly, Bill did his very best to explain the rules, and for some reason, I just wasn't catching on. And weirdly, neither was the other person playing with us. We kept asking questions, and at some point, I was stressed to continue asking questions. So we're kind of winging it, and that's no fault of Bill's. It was more so comprehension on my part. So it was a little tough for me. Now that I understand the rules a little better, I think I would enjoy a replay and rank it a little higher than I would have on my first go round. I love the theme. I think thematically, the cards are very cool. I love the front of the rule book kind of explains the rules as well, but it explains like you're trying to get people to join your parade, but you don't want them to all be dressed up the exact same way. And, it kind of explains sort of the rule of the game, or kind of, why you're trying to get either the most people of the same suit or, have a variety suits in this case. So I thought it was very interesting. It is also very portable. It is just 66 cards, so a little more than a deck of cards. And I would give it a second chance.
Okay, well, that's actually better than I thought it turned out. I know, I just, about halfway through, I'm like, this just is not happening.
I felt so bad. I
felt
swear
bad
my
'cause I was
eyes
so
glazed
excited.
over. I don't know what happened to me. That's not normal.
I was so excited for this game, to introduce this game, too, because I haven't really introduced it to, I haven't really played it in probably a year or two, and I haven't really taught it to anybody in probably longer than that. So, I think I built it up maybe more in my head, but I also back then didn't have a ton of these smaller card games. So the ones that we found that really worked for us were kind of the ones that we pushed. So I can see this being a little tough to grasp on the first go round.
Thank you. That's generous towards me, and I appreciate that.
And that actually is, if I'm being honest, reaching back, most of the people that I have played this with in my past, I have played with multiple times. And so it really does come down to a lot of time that after that first game or two, once you see scoring and you see how everything works, you're like, oh, okay, I was kind of approaching this in a different way, or, oh, now I get it, now it makes more sense. Because at first it can seem kind of like, I understand what I'm doing. I just don't understand how I'm doing it or what I'm supposed to do. So I get it. And thank you for being open to a second chance. And there may be, maybe further down the road, episode, I don't know, 25 or 30, maybe there's a Parade Redemption episode.
I think there very well could be. I think my rating is going to reflect round one, with the caveat that I would like to replay it and review it a second time.
I sense a 5 coming.
Oh my God, how'd you know? That is exactly what I was going to give it.
Yeah.
And the 5 is mostly for portability, not anything else. Oh, and the fact that I won. I'm sorry.
That's fair.
That was very exciting because I didn't know what I was doing the entire game.
That's fair.
So, the 5 feels pretty generous for the first play. I'm really excited to play it again. Maybe not following my new favorite game, Sea Salt and Paper.
Fair. I will give it a 7.5. Simply because I feel like it has fallen a little for me now. I can see that it feels maybe not old fashioned, but it feels like its age is showing a little bit. So
that's fair.
Yeah. So we gave it a shot. We tried, Parade. We tried.
We did.
We'll get them. We'll get them next time.
But again,
we'll get them hooked.
Both games I feel like are really great, strictly card game games. Mm-hmm. So solid choices, and I think if I was going to pick between the two, obviously I have a favorite in that
right.
in this scenario. But I think either one would make a great board game for beginners. So
yep. So Parade's thumbs up for me, and Sea Salt and Paper is a hearty thumbs up. Recommend from both of us. So I think that's it for me. You got anything to add to either one of these?
I feel like I've been pretty concise in my thoughts. In closing, yeah, definitely go out and buy Sea Salt and Paper. Really excited for everyone to share their thoughts on that one.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Well, as always, you know how to get a hold of us. The Meeple Podcast at gmail.com or at the Meeple Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and www.themeeplepodcast.com.
Yeah, you can always check out our reviews and ratings, and you can also see if any of them have changed. Hopefully Parade will here a few episodes from now.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. All right, thanks for listening.